So guys, uh, last week we went over, very basic stuff of the volume profiles. I basically introduced to what they are, um, what happens inside the volume profiles, the belly area, and just a couple things that I thought were, very important to know before we went into the next step. Um, So on this session or on this webinar, we will be going over, some strategies that I like using with volume profiles. And one of them is basically using the previous volume profile for either support or resistance, but at specific levels. And let's try to find an example of that. Let's see if we can find one. These days have been pretty rough, pretty volatile, so it's going to be a bit difficult to find one. Actually, we can probably use this. The problem is that, okay, so I guess we can go in that strategy a little bit. Let me just delete these alerts. I don't like having those lines. Okay, so let me hide the price. Here it is. Okay, so basically, guys, when we have volume profiles like this, basically opening next to the previous volume profile, this is when I like to call it that there is some balance in the market, basically. So you can see that this point of control is not very far from this one. This value area low is essentially the same as this one. And this value area high is essentially, same as this one as well. I mean, we're like 5 points away, like 5 points away. So to me, this is a pretty balanced volume profile. Now, let me delete those. Okay, so when it comes to, basically analyzing the market open and, analyzing momentum and stuff like that, I usually like to wait 1 hour after the market opens. Okay, so let's say, the market's about to open, we have this volume profile here, and then we are in this current session. So this session is about to open. We don't have this volume profile yet. So let me just, actually, you know what? I can do something about this. I can do this. I think it'll work. There we go. I can hide the volume profiles for the day. We can do this. Then we can use this one again. So this is going to be the session that's just about to start. Okay, this is the open, 7:30 a.m. to, let's do 9 a.m. Approximately right there. Okay, guys. So usually when I, trade, I usually like to wait at least 1 hour after the open. Not always. Sometimes there'll be setups, right before the 1 hour passes. But this is basically called the initial balance, where, the volume starts to settle down, because I'm pretty sure we've all seen how the open can be very volatile. We have some pretty crazy price swings up and down. And, if you're not, very accurate with your entries at the open, you can get tilted. I guess that's, how some people like to call it. You can get burned pretty fast, in the open. So I usually like to wait 1 hour after the open. Okay, so I wait 1 hour after the open, which would be, somewhere around here, 8:30, right there. Let's paint that in let's do a green. Let's do 1 hour over here. Let's see, right there. So it's about 1 hour on both right here. Okay, so let's delete this one. Now let's turn on the price. Let's do this. Okay, so if we look at this, after we pass this 1 hour mark, basically the volume profile, I'm sorry, not the volume profile, the price basically closed down here. Okay, so we have this. So we move this down here. Right. So basically right now, the value in the volume profile moved along with price action. So, we're seeing pretty strong selling here. This was pretty strong selling. I mean, it was very, very strong selling. And then we see price come down here, and we see the volume profile stay down here, right? So what is that telling me? So this is telling me that, the value in this current session on the first hour moved along with the price. Why is that? Okay, so I know that we have the value area up here, we still have the value area up here. Let me paint that in white so you guys can see it. So this is the value area high, and this is the value area low. And you can see the red line here. This is the point of control. So if we move, let me try to move this a little bit. So you can see how this volume profile will, keep moving along with price. On every candle, it will probably be moving. Okay. It's moving down. It's moving. Okay, still the same spot. And what happens here? Okay, so a lot of trading happened right here. So do you guys see how the point of control moved on these candles here? Over here, it was during these candles during this time, most of the trading happened in this area. And when we moved here, when we traded here, most of the trading happened in this area. Do you guys see how the point of control moved from a very higher point to a much lower point? Do you guys see that? Okay. So that's basically value following, the price. There's, people are seeing value at this level. And that's just, within the first hour after, market open. Okay. So what do we see here? We see value moving, shifting lower, and then we see, these wicks up. So what's happening here on these wicks? Can someone tell me? Let me move this green line. So what's happening on these wicks right here? It's just basic price action. Correct, Manuel. Date, you should, it's just a periodic volume profiles. Make sure you take a look at the previous video that I did on my YouTube, so you can see how to add the volume profiles and all that. But it's just, periodic volume profiles, this one here. It's like the standard indicator for TradingView. And you'll be able to see how to set up the settings and all that in there. Okay, so now that we saw, the value shift lower, and we see all these wicks here, so we see that sellers are in control. Okay, now that we entered just because, we see these wicks up here, probably not. We might have to take a look at NQ, Apple, something else, maybe even the heat map to see, how the market is looking. If the market is looking like this, and we see, the ES trying to break down, we might not see a move down on ES. We might see a fake out. Who knows? But this is just, not, the actual heat map. This is just Friday's heat map. So it does not match this here. So, we have this. This is giving us bearish sentiment. Price action is looking bearish. We had a massive sell-off, which is, pretty damn bearish. If you see this momentum here, it looks pretty bearish. Now, time passes, let's say, we enter a trade here short, pretty choppy move down, but still, pretty good. 15 points approximately to the lows. Now let's see what the volume profiles do here. Volume profiles move much lower now. And you can see how on this area where we saw sellers in control, it became basically resistance over here again. So guys, very important and very, very, very simple and easy, basically not strategy, but just, an extra tool to add to your to your strategy is the wicks near high volume nodes. So guys, this is a high volume node right here. This is a high volume node. And then this is a low volume node. Actually, let me change the color on that. Okay, so the white is a high volume node. And the red here is a low volume node. So basically, where you see high volume nodes, there is a high concentration of trading going on. Lots of trading. It could be buying or selling. We don't know until we see, a price reaction. And on a low volume node, this is basically very low trading, very little trading. So basically, a high volume node is a high area of interest, and a low volume node is a low area of, I'm sorry, I need to rephrase that. A high volume node is an area of high interest, and a low volume node is an area of low interest. Does that make sense? This is very, very important. I need to make sure you guys understand this before we move on. Yes, correct. So, yes, Manuel, correct. High volume node rejection is showing that this is showing interest for the sellers. This area here, we can see it happen again over here. We're going to go into that here in a bit. And low volume node is low interest in either sellers or buyers. We don't know if it's sellers or buyers until price action tells us what it is. Here, it's low interest for the buyers. Why? Because price just swept through. You can see the price action on these candles is just boom. Look again, high volume node, chop, 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 chop. And it won't change until, the session passes. You can see how it changes a little bit. But whenever you see, candles just slice through price, you usually see low volume nodes. Like right here, you see how we have very little trading here? Just a low area of interest for the buyers at right here. Just slice through. You can see how this area here acted as resistance over here. Over here, it was a low area of interest for buyers. And over here again, it was a low area, an area of low interest for buyers. Do you guys see that? Awesome. So, and this is just from the first hour, guys. Like if we move it back here, this is basically essentially the first hour and a half of the market open. We have all this information already from just 1 hour after the open. Okay, so Now, let's say, you know, time passes and we're over here now. Okay, so we have our high volume node. We see a lot of sellers here. Could potentially mark this right here. You know, we had a massive breakthrough. Actually, you know, if we go to this candle, I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a low volume node here. Look, let's take a look. Yep, basically, essentially zero trading, or you know, very little trading happened right here on this break. Not until these candles went by that we see, you know, the high volume node start forming. Look at that. It just gets bigger and bigger right here. So let's say, you know, we're gonna mark these wicks right here. And guys, like I said, very important. The wicks in certain high volume nodes or low volume nodes will tell you a lot of information. So, you know, keep that in mind. The wicks inside of, you know, the wicks or just price action in general in these areas. Yes, correct, Steel. This was a battleground between buyers and sellers right here. And the sellers essentially, you know, took over here and just proceeded to move lower. Now, down here, we won't know if it'll bounce because we would have to go probably almost a year back to see these lows. I mean, when was the last time we saw these lows? So right over here. I mean, we could probably, you know, draw some volume profiles here and try to get, you know, the level of support and see if it matches price over there. Take a quick look. Okay, so probably this right here. Oh, didn't mark. Probably this right here. Oh, it went all the way up there. So it went to test the lows of these days. It went even lower than those lows. Pretty crazy. Okay, so what did I delete? Delete the white line, right? Okay, hold on. What did I delete? Okay, never mind. You don't need that. Okay, so now that we have, you know, this information from this session, let's say, you know, the session ends and we end up with this volume profile here. Okay, so we end up with that volume profile there. So we can see how this was a very strong area of interest during the first hour. And the first hour we closed, you know, right here. Right? So basically volume settled down here. Then we had a second test of these highs, you know, same areas over here. And we had a rejection. And over here, we had a test of the basically initial balance close. Remember, initial balance is the first hour after open. So we had a test of the initial balance up here and had a pretty nasty rejection. Okay, let's add another volume profile. Oh, what did I do? Let's add another volume profile. So let's just add it right here. So, you know, this is for those of you that like trading the open. This is a pretty good way to get levels, you know, using the volume profiles to see what they're showing you back here. See if, you know, price action matches, you know, the levels. Over here, we open, move down, move back up, few wicks, and then a pretty nasty sell-off of about 30 points. Yeah, about 30 points, 20 points, approximately. This would have been a really good move for puts. Maybe they will get might V crushes on these moves up, these candles, but shorts from here would have been fantastic. Okay, guys, so we see that the first hour passes on this session. Volume profile looks pretty similar to this volume profile, right? So we might say, okay, you know what? So since it's looking pretty similar, we might see pretty similar levels, right? So, you know, that's correct. We're gonna see pretty similar levels when we see this volume profile matching this volume profile. And let's say, you know, this session passed and, you know, we had this volume profile form. Yes, the volume profile will automatically change as the session passes. Okay, guys, now something very important. Let's actually move this a little bit back. Here on this volume profile here, price broke up and made a high volume node here, right? We had a high volume node. Here we didn't have a high volume node. Okay, so we broke out and we made a high volume node here. Now, of course, you know, if we break out, we're going to be looking at stuff like NQ and RTY and Apple and, you know, the rest of the market to see if it's matching, you know, this breakout. But if we look at price action here, I mean, had a strong break, then it moved down, you know, and then this, and then a choppy move back. I mean, a pretty strong candle move back down. Then we have this, and, you know, we essentially failed to break out twice right here. Because first we made, you know, this little, actually, let me use this. Why is it not marking? And let me just fix that a little bit. Right. Let's delete this. We won't need this anymore. Okay, so essentially made like a little box here where the price was trading. Or we can even move a little bit lower, like right here, for it to match the high volume node. Okay, so we essentially tried to break out twice. Once here, actually 3 times. 1, 2, and then on this third time, we made a lower high. And one way to view that a little bit better is probably using this here. Not sure if you guys like to use this tool, but it's, you know, basically the line tool on TradingView. So you go to the bar styles and you have line, candles, and all that stuff. Now, I like to have the candles and the bars like this. So you can see how here we had a wick, so we can only see it in the candles. But here we had a, you know, solid close above on the line tool. But then on this move up, we had a solid close, but it was lower than this one. So this is showing me, you know, potential loss in momentum. Do you guys see that? So we're basically losing some momentum as we try to break out. And then, you know, we eventually, you know, move lower again as we fail to move back to the upside. Now, as we move lower, we see, you know, basically the same thing happen over here. We have a basically area where there's a lot of chop. There's a lot of trading going on here. Why? Because we see a high volume node here, and not just any high volume node, but the point of control. So we got this whole area right here. So there's a lot of trading going on here. And you can see how previously we had very little trading going on here. So we broke up of this resistance. We broke above resistance. and then came back to retest this area here. Do you guys see that? How we came back to retest an area where we had little trading going on here. But over here, we had more trading than on the previous day. So this is showing interest in either buyers or sellers. We won't know until we see certain indications in the market of potential buyers or sellers entering. Or let's say we might have NQ still trading higher and Apple trading higher, I know you will probably talk about this, but how should we trade the breaks and the changes in control? So I was about to go into that just now, Manuel. So we basically broke outside of this resistance. You know how we had resistance here on the basically opening of the session? Let me mark this with something else. Let's mark it with this green line. So this was essentially resistance for this session. The opening price here for a bit until we broke out. So we broke out and moved back to a high area of interest. Okay, guys, now listen. Usually when we have a breakout like this, price will tend to either retest point of control or value area low if coming from the downside. I mean, from the upside. So we might see something like this, or we might see, something like this to test value area low. Of course, there's rare instances when price will just, go past levels and stuff like that. But, we won't know until it happens. There's no way of forecasting every single move. So you see that price is holding the the point of control from the previous session. So price went up. Let me change the color of that. Price went up. Actually, let's do white. Yeah. Price went up, came back down to retest point of control. And not only that, but it made a high volume node here. Right? So it made a high volume node. Let me delete that line. Okay, so we see interest here. Okay, if you're a pretty aggressive trader, you can try to, take longs down here. But if you're a more conservative trader, you could probably take longs over here after we see, a clear break of this area where we had a lot of trading. You can see how here we had undecisive candles. No, we didn't know if we were going to go up or down. Then we had a massive kill candle, more chop, move down, move up, massive kill candle, massive move up, then this candle, and then we started taking over the sellers. We broke out, moved back here, and we had a retest right here. So let's say if this was your entry, this would have been, a pretty good entry on this retest. So basically what we had was a, strong move down, right here. Then buyers tried to take over, failed. And then we had this, basically big candles right here. I'm pretty sure we had, increasing volume on these candles. I mean, not increasing volume, but high volume. Let's take a look. Okay, so you can see how on these candles we had some okay volume. Most of the volume was on this red candle. But if you compare the volume in this red candle to, like this red candle right here, these red candles right here. But it's not very significant. It's not, you know, a amount of volume that you would say, oh, oh crap, there's a lot of sellers in here. It was more like a let me show you with this indicator. It was pretty average volume if you compare it to, the other candles. Where is this buy, sell, buy and selling volume? Okay, oh, I already had it once. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so you can see on these candles how we had a lot of sellers and some buyers. And then on this one, we had basically mostly buyers. But if we go look at these candles over here, I mean, look at the sellers on these candles. It was basically the same amount of sellers as these over here. I mean, we had 11,000 in seller volume, and here these were 9,000, 9,000, 9,000. So it was pretty much the same volume on this candle. Well, seller volume than on these candles. So there wasn't a significant change. And well, and it was also happening inside of an area where we had very little trading happen before. Okay, so we could have waited for like something like a, breakdown, retest, then enter short here to see if we can get a move down. But that never happened. We never had, a break, a significant break in close below, these previous wicks. And that's why I'm saying, it's important to watch the wicks where we have, high volume nodes and low volume nodes. Here all we did was retest a low volume node area right here. So very little trading happened at this end. Most of the trading happened over here. So very little trading happened here, and we have two bounces basically. So what is this telling us? Just like over here, guys, just like over here. Over here, we had little trading happen at the highs. Over here, we had little trading happen at the lows. And this is why you often see me changing bias as the session passes, because the session will continue developing. And, if we fail to develop with the session, we might end up being in the wrong side of the trend. Now, there will be instances when we will have trouble reading the market, and that's perfectly fine. That's usually on trend days when we have, we might have some problem reading potential moves, because on trend days, there's usually, like a delay between the change in the volume profiles and the change in price, because there's usually not very little trading, but less trading at and I'll show you guys in a bit so I can explain that a little bit better, because I need to visually see that. Like over here, I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about. Let me just finish this right here. So we had, over here we saw little trading at the highs. Over here we saw little trading at the lows. We can see that here in a low volume node. Now you can see how over here we made a low volume node. So our low volume nodes, listen, essentially have to look like this. It can be like this, or it can be like this. So we compare the high volume nodes and other low volume nodes. This is a pretty average low volume node for this session. So here we made a low volume node right here, even after all this trading happened. Guys, price passed through here, I don't know how many times, and we still made a low volume node over here. Look, let's move this over here. So here, look at that. This was point of control, guys. A very, very traded spot right here. Very high interest right here. Time passes, still point of control. Time passes, point of control moved higher. Time passes, point of control remained over here. And then we started making this low volume node. We come in here, back to this spot. We traded down here again, and the point of control did not move lower. It remained higher. So there's a lot of trading going on here and very little trading going on down here. When we previously had a point of control down here, now we don't have, we have absolutely nothing but a low volume node. So guys, what is that telling us? What do you guys think that's telling us? Anyone? Oh, crap. Correct. There's no interest in the price below when previously we had a lot of interest. And we see it in the price action. So is this making sense? Awesome, awesome. So, and that's why I say, guys, whenever you're using volume profiles, you use volume profiles to find value. Yes, cutting onion. So, when you're using the volume profiles, use the volume profiles to find value in the market. Don't just slap them on and use, this as support, or this is resistance and this as support, and just like that. It's really a, using volume profiles really takes a lot of time of practice, and it's essentially an art. I mean, you really, really, really have to pay attention to what's going on. This is not something that you'll learn on 1 week or 2 weeks. How do you use this with strategy? What do you mean, how do I use this with strategy? Oh yes, I use this every single day. Every single day. There's not a day that I don't use this strategy, guys. Let's see, 1 hour right here. Well, like I said, it really depends on your strategy. If you're a breakout trader, you'll probably place your trade on the retest. On the breakout, I'm sorry. If you're a retest trader, break and retest, you'll take your entry at the retest. If you're a how's that called? Pattern trader or something like that. Trend line trader. I don't know how it's called. You'll probably take your entry right here. It really depends to what type of trader you are. So I know a lot of people like to use trend lines. I know a lot of people like to use patterns. Like here we have a potential double bottom, stuff like that. It really depends on your style of trading. For me, I mean, based on the price action here, it would have probably been up here and not down here, because this price action here was very volatile. And it would have been hard to, see, find an entry right here unless I was looking at, um RTY and NQ, Apple, because a lot of I like to watch a lot of tickers. So like I'm watching this all the time. This plus, the orders coming in and stuff like that. Like I'm not watching just one single ticker. So you can see how NQ, this is NQ, this is RTY, and this is Apple, I believe. So you can see how, give me 1 second. You can see how all of them were basically chopping in this area. But Apple over here was holding above, this session's resistance. So Apple was right here. Oh, Apple was holding this right here. While, we had ES trying to move lower, NQ was doing the same thing. Then we have RTY, also trying to break lower, but this is RTY. But, essentially all had a failed breakout to the downside at this, very important area where we had a previous low volume node. So, yeah, we'll be looking at price action. We'll be looking at volume. I know a lot of you use, what's it called? Fibonacci's, the volume rule, just a lot of strategies, use. And this is not a strategy that you might want to use by itself until you actually learn it, very well. But I think it's a great strategy to add to your toolbox and be able to get further confirmation on, the potential move that's coming. Yeah, take care, Manuel. No problem, brother. Okay. So let's see. On this session, we had, oh, how do I fix this? On this session, we had a pretty similar volume profile to this one, pretty much inside previous volume profile. So all these three volume profiles were essentially the same at one point. You can see how, this resistance was, basically, essentially this day, this session was this session and this session, but in one session. You can see how this here was basically this whole session. Pretty similar move. Down, up, down, down, up, down. And then we had the breakout. And this was, essentially this, let me mark this. And essentially this part here was this part here. Do you guys see that? How we had pretty similar price action, very similar levels of support and resistance, resistance here, support here, essentially the same stuff. Of course, it won't be 100% accurate, guys. Like getting exact 100% accurate levels is almost impossible. But what is possible is reading the price action near the levels. And that's why I say, don't just focus on the line that you mark. And this is another reason why I usually don't mark like just a line like that. Like I don't like just marking a line like that. If I mark a line, I'll look at the price action around this. Like here, we had a bounce above. Here we move, under, right at the line, bounced above, wicks above, we wick below. So don't just pay attention to the line, pay attention to the overall price action surrounding the line. This here, pay attention to this here. So this session, basically, same thing as over here, same thing as over here, same levels. Pretty choppy moves up here. Pretty choppy move down as well. Actually, I think I took one trade this day. I think we caught one of these moves up. I don't know which one. I think it was like 7-point move up. Basically, what I did on this trade is I was watching this price action here. So I saw, this whole thing over here, potential support here, here, here. And then we saw price move down here. Okay. So we were right here. And I saw how we had, a few wicks over here. Wick ups, then failed breakdown. So what I did is I marked this here. And I don't remember if I took a trade here or somewhere around here. I really can't remember. But I remember we took like 7 points in profits on this trade. Where is the measuring tool? Yeah, so I think it was this one. This one or this move up, I'm not sure. But we had like 7 points move up and basically no drawdown. Must have been this one here. But yeah, so same volume profile here. Now on this one, this was a very, very hard, tough thing to watch. Why? Okay, so first we have the 1 hour after open right there. And now we have the volume profile. Okay, so 1 hour passed, the value area stayed lower. And then time passed and the value area stayed lower. And we had a rejection. Okay. So I was looking basically at this here. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I was looking basically at this here. And I basically took a short somewhere around here. I think we moved lower and then we just, they stopped me out instantly. I mean, that's, that was me being greedy. That was okay move down. I think we entered a little bit lower, somewhere around here. And I had my stop just above this. Now, why did it have my stop here when it could have been over here? Because of this move up. This move up was pretty damn violent. And remember that we had non-farm payroll this day. So I was trying to be a little bit more cautious with my my stop loss. I didn't want to take too much risk. So I think it was like a 4 or 5 point stop loss on this trade. And, I got stopped out. And I was essentially targeting a move back down to basically this area, this high volume node right here. So around this area right here, targeting point of control, targeting these lows down here. But, we failed to break down and I really wasn't feeling this move up. It was a trend day. Like I said, it's hard to see these moves. And you can see how, the volume profile kept failing to move higher as price moved higher. And then all of a sudden it just ripped up. Look, still down here. Price is up here, and let me delete all these drawings. Should look ugly. So, price was essentially right here. And look at these volume nodes. Do you guys see those? Basically non-existent. And then we don't shift value higher, I think, until here. Nope, still still looking the same. It's still looking the same. But look at how this high volume node starts forming right here. So we're basically making a high volume node, and we got this right here. So we're making a high volume node right here. And this is why we had the strong rejection. The sellers were seeing this here, high volume node, or we had a previous low volume node, strong rejection, but they failed to, keep moving this lower. We did have a 20-point rejection approximately, but eventually, we failed to move lower. And we had a massive buying, and then we made a base here, and then we had another rally. I think this is where the value changed on these candles here. Yep, there it is. A lot of trading happened right here on this area that made the point of control move from here, 42.62, all the way to 43.30. So that's why trend days is a bit difficult to I guess not master, but how would you guys call it? It's difficult to use the volume profiles on trend days because it just keeps trending on potential low volume sometimes. And it really takes time to learn this, guys. It's really gonna take I mean, I think I've been using volume profiles for close to a year now, and I still have much more to learn. But I just want to show you guys what I've already learned, what I've been using, what I've seen working. And this is a very great way to find levels of support and resistance as well. And you can be pretty damn accurate with these as well. I'm not saying you'll be 100% accurate, but you can be pretty damn accurate with these levels using the volume profiles. Any questions, comments, ideas, concerns, complaints, anything? No questions? Open the market. Okay, if we don't have any questions, I'm gonna start recording so that we don't make the recording unnecessarily long.